Salvete discipoli. Today we're going to do the future tense. Before we do the future tense, I want you to remember the things that you already know about Latin verbs. Est and sunt really are verbs, even though you can't is someone. Remember, when you're doing verbs, you're going to conjugate. You're going to join together the verb stem with the personal endings. And there are 3 ways to translate present verbs: the subject verbs, the subject is verbing, or the subject does verb. So for example, portant is they carry, they are carrying, or they do carry. It's jargon. It's jargon time. Go ahead and open up your jargon in your Google Drive so that you can take down these 2 jargon words that I have for you in the video. The infinitive is the to verb. It's the second principal part of the verb. You already know that. So if you're looking at amo, amare, amavi, amatis, amare is the infinitive and it's translated to love. Remember that infinitives don't have person and number. So if I ask you to identify the person and number of an infinitive, you say, "No, Magistra, no, there is no person and number for the infinitive." And tense is the time or duration of the action. It comes from the Latin word tempus, and you may have heard the Latin phrase tempus fugit, which is usually mistranslated as time flies, like a clock with wings on it, but it actually means time flees or time runs away. And that's all you need in the jargon section of your portfolio. Speaking of jargon, verbs are described with many jargon words. Person, like first, second, or third person. Number, like singular or plural. And here's the jargon definition. You want to put this in your jargon for tense, the time or duration of the action. Like present tense is happening now. The mnemonic we use to remember those things, person, number, tense, is Parsi, our vulture. Here's a picture of her, our actual vulture that you can't touch. Because please never touch subs in for person, number, and tense. Please never touch. Or in Latin, placeas noli tangere. You've seen pictures of Parsi around the classroom, like this nice poster that someone made last year. And sometimes I put it on things that I actually don't want you to touch. And here's a picture of me not touching Parsi. Kind of like that game you play with your siblings where you're like, "I'm not touching you," but your finger's really close to their face anyway. Anytime you see a verb, you want to ask yourself, what's the person, number, and tense of this verb? So if you're looking at amatis, the tis tells you that it's second person plural and it's also present. Sunt is third person plural and present. They are. And if you know your vocabulary, this is from lesson 4. The T tells you that it's clearly third person and singular, and it means he was, so it's past tense. Third person, singular, and past tense. Person, number, tense. Go ahead and do paro on your own and pause until you're ready to look at the answer. Since it's got an O, it's first person, it's singular and present. Okay, I want to make sure that you're still with me. Are you absorbing the information that you've been getting so far? Or are you maybe just staring blankly? If so, take a break and then come back, because the important notes are coming up next. When you conjugate the future tense in Latin, you're going to use the same stem as you did for the present tense. So the second principal part, also known as the infinitive, minus the RE. You're also going to use the same personal endings, those most, must, isn't endings. So you might be asking yourself, what's going to be different? And the answer is that in between the stem and the endings, you're going to add the infix be. You know from English class that a prefix goes on the front of the word, like the word pre, and a suffix goes on the end of a word,
An infix goes in between. Nota bene, that means note well, that there are some exceptions to the be rule. First person singular is bo, and third person plural is bunt.
Here's a chart of the infix plus the endings. Bo bis bit, bimis bitis bunt, bo bis bit, bimis bitis bunt. I had a student last year who made up the mnemonic Bob is bit, Bimis bit his butt. If that helps you, I'm sure that he would be happy for you to use it. Okay, grab some notes and make yourself a chart, because you have to conjugate along with me here as we do the future tense. You might want to pause in case you need to get that stuff ready. Okay, the first step is to take the RE off of the second principal part, and then put the stem in every box. Notice that the stem is also in the first person singular. You've got lauda there and not laudo. Next, you're going to add your infix, bi, right? But remember that first person singular and third person plural are weird, so you don't have bi there. Then you add your most, must, is, and endings. Laudabo, laudabis, laudabit, laudabimus, laudabitis, laudabunt. Okay, draw yourself another chart because you're going to practice conjugating amo in the future tense. You may need to pause so that you don't see the answers. Amabo, amabis, amabit, amabimus, amabitis, amabunt. Did you get bo in the first person singular and bunt in the third person plural?
Yuge, good job, Discipoli.
Most of the time you're going to translate the future tense with will. You can always use shall if you're feeling kind of fancy, or if you're ordering someone to do something, like you shall do your homework. I also put fixin' to in there because it's just a fun Texan thing and I like fun Texan things. So when you translated a verb that's conjugated in the future, like amabimus, it means we will love or we shall love. You have to get that will or that shall in there to make sure you've translated it future. We'll have a timed warm-up over the conjugation of future tense verbs on the 8th of October, and you'll also have to translate one of the forms of the verb. So if, for example, I gave you amabimus, you would translate it we will love. Make sure you know the vocabulary through lesson 6. That's all you need to know about the future tense. I recommend doing some of the choices over lesson 6 so that you can practice the future tense and prepare yourself for that timed warm-up, and of course for translating in class. Walete Discipoli.